Hello everyone, welcome back to another David Rams live stream. Hope you're all doing well. I see we got some guys already here in the chat waiting, so thank you for getting here nice and early. We've got an interesting one today, guys. So today I'm going to be having a guest on. His name's Ronen Bar. He's from the Israeli animal rights organization Sentient. He's actually the founder of this organization. And he's got a novel, new way of collecting footage of what goes on in farms and in slaughterhouses. And this is basically, it's in the title. They put cameras literally on animals and they're able to capture footage of them in their final moments from their own perspective, which is obviously, in my opinion, groundbreaking. So today we're going to get into that. We're going to interview Ronen. But before we do, a couple of things to clear up. First of all, as always with my interview streams, if you guys have got questions, if you guys have got comments, I'm not going to be getting to the live chat because I'm going to be interviewing Ronen, right? So please do send through the super chats and the Streamlabs tips, and we respond to every single one of them at the end. Okay, I'll be keeping a track on them. They're all here in front of me. We'll answer any of your questions. We'll respond to anything you got to say. And every super chat and every Streamlabs tip today will be split 50-50 between ourselves, myself, and what I'm doing, and what Ronen and Sentient are doing as well. So we're going to split them 50-50 because they need a lot of support right now. So what else do I need to tell you? That's pretty much it. Oh yeah, one other thing, guys. Please don't send questions about the conflict in Israel right now. It is a topic that is good to discuss. Of course, it's happening. It's brutal. It's horrible. But today is not the time for it. It's going to require a whole other live stream or podcast to do that discussion, which Ronen may or may not agree to. Maybe we'll do that in the future, but we're not doing it today, okay? Just a FYI for everybody, please keep that kind of chat not for here. For here, we're going to talk about animal rights today. We're going to talk about this today. Is that okay with everybody? Give me some broccolis in the chat if everything's clear, and that's all good, and if you're excited to get into this, because I am. I'm excited to have him here to get into this and discuss this pretty honestly crazy thing to me. When I first heard about this, it was just mind-boggling to me. Okay, guys. So how we're going to do it, before we bring Ronen in, I need to show you actually what they've been doing, because without the footage, you're just imagining it, right? Fortunately, we do have a video to show you. It's a 6-minute video. It has no gore, no blood, no guts, but it is incredibly sad. I have to just warn you there, okay? Again, to repeat that, nothing in there is going to be gory or anything like that. There's no scenes of, obviously there's scenes of violence, but there's no scenes of killing and stabbing or anything like that, okay? It's edited quite well so that you get the sense of what's going on without actually any gore or anything that would be overly triggering. But I'll warn you again, it is very sad, okay? So I'm going to play that for you now. I please would like all of you to watch it, even if you feel sensitive, because it's important that we see this. It's important that we understand and give these animals the respect they deserve, and seeing things from their point of view, especially in this light, especially looking at them as individuals, is really, really important. So I'm going to show the video for you now, okay? And after the video, we'll begin the interview. Hey everybody. So yeah, what's to say about that, huh? I'm gonna not comment on it for now, and then we're gonna talk to Ronen instead. I think that's the more important. I think that's the best way to go. But I hope you're all doing okay. I hope you're still here. Hope you watched the video. It was very important to watch. Now you've got a great idea of what all this looks like and the possibilities and the kind of footage that we're able to get from doing this. And let's talk more about that now with Ronen from Sentient. Ronen, welcome to the live stream, mate.
Hi, thanks for having me.
That's good to have you here, man. So obviously, not a graphic video, not graphic footage that you showed there, but harrowing nonetheless, right? It's a very powerful, powerful video that you guys put together, powerful footage that you put together. So let's rewind, all right? Because we're going to get to how and why you guys did that. That's important. But first off, we need to figure out who you are. And so for those that don't know you, no idea, never seen you before, never heard of Sentient, let's kick off with that. So who are you and what's your organization?
So my name is Ronen Bar. I'm an Israeli animal rights activist. My background is investigative journalism. I worked in Israel as a journalist, mostly on TV shows, investigative TV shows. Um, and I've been an active for about 15 years, mostly with undercover investigation, some other things, but mostly focusing on undercover work. And we formed, me and another partner, Sentient, about 6.5 years ago, approximately, because we wanted to do worldwide investigations. And that's what we did, investigations around the world. But recently, we took this strategic path of customizing tools and developing tools for animal rights activists.
Right.
We always have this question above our head: how can we make a difference which is beyond time and space?
Right.
You know, and investigations, which are wonderful and exciting and great, they make a lot of difference, sometimes even beyond the specific geographical region and beyond the specific time. But our goal is to give activists, not just in the, we call it the spy tech space, but not just in the animal investigative space, but activists in all fields, tools that can make them better, that can enhance their activism.
Right.
And if we create a good tool, we know that can help some activists, I don't know, 4 years from now in Japan,
Right.
or in Malaysia, or in the US. It's endless. The possibilities are endless.
Got it.
And one of the most important things for us in Sentient is highlighting the individual, the sentient individual. And I think that's something we don't do enough in the movement. And we
Right.
can do much more.
Okay.
And this tools plays along very well with that. But maybe we'll get to that, I think,
Yeah.
going forward. But I'll just wrap up about Sentient.
Okay.
So with Sentient, we do three main things. So we customize and develop tools for activists. Second, we execute undercover investigations with those tools around the world. And the third thing is we create content. We have a Facebook page of about 500,000 followers. If you write Sentient, you can see our black and white logo.
That's great, man.
So these are the main three things that we're focusing on.
Amazing, man. Amazing. And I'm really happy today that we're able to get some donations and some help for you guys as well, with 50% of all the donations and all the super chats and everything coming in today, guys. We'll go to these guys. And also, if you want to directly support Sentient, you can go to their website, which is in the description, and go directly support. No, it's amazing that you set that up, man. And so remind me, how many years ago was that? I don't know if you mentioned.
Sentient was formed 6.5 years ago,
okay.
but this project is quite new.
Yeah.
And we've just began to spread this tool to activists around the world.
Amazing, man.
So we were at the beginning stages of this project, spreading it. The tool is already existent, and
Right.
we made like a proof of concept with the investigation and everything.
Brilliant, man. How did you come up with this as a concept? Like, talk me through the stepping stones of, okay, you must have had a thought process, right? You must have identified an issue that you saw, or like, yeah, I guess, talk me through how you went from A to B with this.
So I think that there were a few steps. The first step, I take you back, like because a lot of times ideas are built,
Right.
slowly. So when I was studying journalism in Israel back like more than 10 years ago, 15 years ago, when I was studying journalism in Israel, they gave us an assignment. Everybody can do a story about what they want, and I said, okay, I want to do about factory farming, about the slaughter industry, about farm animals. And they told me, you cannot do it because you don't have anyone to interview.
Right.
Who are you going to interview? You need to interview someone, like we're doing now. You're interviewing.
Right.
And
But you can't interview animals, basically, right?
You can't interview animals.
Right.
And for me, every camera that we put on an animal is an interview.
Right.
But we'll get to that. But I'm just saying, it put something in my mind. I see there is some fundamental problem with the media and animals, and how the media is treating this subject. There's a very fundamental problem, and the problem is you don't have individual stories. So if you take any atrocity or any horrible thing that's happening, let's take the war in Ukraine, right? You hear about some child who was bombed and killed, but you don't hear only that. You hear something about the child.
Right.
Like, for instance, the story can say the name of the child, and it can say that he was 15 years old and he started to fall in love with someone. Or that he was the best in class in physics.
Yeah.
And you can say, wait a minute, does it matter that he was the best in class in physics? And if he didn't start to fall in love, does it matter?
Right.
Still, his killing is horrible, right?
Yeah, of course.
But to our minds, it matters.
Yeah.
Because now, after I told you something, even very small, about this child, now you can be more empathic to his death.
Absolutely.
And to his killing. It's a very crucial thing. Let me give you another example. I think it's very interesting from Israel about wild animals. We have, you can count on one hand the number of times that you have a really individual animals that you get to know a little bit their personality and their stories. And we're talking about trillions of victims, right? Including wild animals. You have trillions of victims every year
Mm-hmm.
of the whole atrocities that the human kind is doing to animality. And I have lectures about wild animals, and I tell people, listen, these are trillions of victims. Give me one name and one story of one victim. Trillions.
Right.
No one can say, never, except one. But except one person, no one can say anything. So we have this lacume, we have this lack of individual stories. So if I get back to the story about Israel, so
Mm-hmm.
we had a very good campaign a few years ago about a jackal. I
Mm-hmm.
think it's a jackal. I think you say it in Israel, a jackal. That they wanted to build a city on his home, on his forest.
Right.
Of course, this is one jackal out of many.
Yeah.
And there was some campaign who highlighted a specific jackal called Ruti.
Right.
That was his name, and he was a really successful campaign, and it individualized an animal.
Right.
Now, I think the very interesting stuff is that the person who led this campaign is telling that the people in the city were really afraid of Ruti, really, really scared.
Right.
And then suddenly they found out that Ruti is actually a female, not a male.
Okay. Right.
And she said, in this minute that they found out this information, all the I would say the fear just went down by half.
Right.
That's how she says that, and I found it so interesting. And she says, by the way, the female and male, it doesn't make a difference. A female jackal and a male jackal, they're both
Right.
not dangerous to animals. It makes no difference, but it doesn't matter. Just the fact that she was a female makes so much difference. So I know the power of. I understand the power of individual stories, and this is actually the role of journalism. Journalists are people who tell stories. This is journalism, or they turn numbers into stories. And I don't think we were able to do that in the animal rights movement. I think we're still with the numbers, with the individual stories. So that's something that stuck in my mind for a very long time. But then I think also maybe 7, 8 years ago, my girlfriend sent me a video of a dog in Mumbai, of a day in the life of a street dog in Mumbai.
Right.
Now, they didn't put an actual camera on the dog, but they made a video which looked like they did.
Right.
It was a real video, but it wasn't real. Like they didn't really put the camera on the dog, but it was edited like they did.
Okay.
And I said, wow, could we do that on farmed animals? So I
Yeah.
always had this idea in mind. Not always, like during the last couple of years. And then once we started developing like a real R&D section in Sentient,
Right.
we said, let's go for it. Let's do it.
That's a really interesting story, and it's interesting how all these different things kind of came together. Like you saw the news, then you saw this video, and then you kind of just said, hey, wait a minute. Look at all these people who eat animals 3 times a day, and now they'll suddenly care about this jackal, right? And it's happened loads of times too. People suddenly care about people like, oh, elephants. Yeah, I care about elephants. And like, what do you do for elephants? I don't do anything for elephants. But if there's a specific elephant with a name that you see a story about, and they've been attacked, or currently they need vet care and they can't afford it, and there's lovely elephant with and the personality, and you see videos of them playing with the humans, and all of a sudden you're going to make a lot of money, right? Not make money, but raise a lot of money for the elephant, right? So it's
because we as primate monkeys, we didn't develop to understand numbers, to understand statistics, to understand long-termism.
Right.
You look even with donations. You ask for a donation to save a specific dog, and you get a certain amount of money. You ask to save 100 dogs, you're gonna get less.
Absolutely.
There's some interesting studies about that.
No, I was very surprised that I did a fundraising for one specific dog once when I was back in Barcelona, and I was very surprised at how it wasn't easy, but it was easier than I expected to get the funds to get this dog. This dog had German Shepherd born with feet that pointed the wrong way. So basically the life expectancy is extremely low because they get heavy very quickly, and then that's it. Can't walk anymore. Going to have to be put down. And raised ended up being like something like 3 or 4 grand euros, 3 or 4,000 euros in the space of, I don't know, maybe 4 to 5 months or something like that. But it wasn't that hard. Right? People saw this little German Shepherd puppy and the story and the name Max, and look how cute he is and look how much he loves everybody. And people were like, yeah, I want to see this dog. And he got his surgeries, and then he grew into this massive German Shepherd and sprinting around like he'd never had a problem. And it was an amazing story. But Yeah, you're totally right. If it were just a nameless, faceless dog, this dog needs help, numbers on a page, never would have happened. They need to see
I
them.
think the main question here is who are the victims? If you and I, as animal rights activists, cannot give names and stories, and we're just staying with the, the electric, they use electric prod to move them, and the slaughter line is narrow,
Right.
and they cut their beaks. If we stay with that, then we're in a serious problem.
It's a really good point. It's super important. I know there are some organizations that have kind of hinted at this, but you're right. It hasn't caught on movement wide, and it definitely hasn't caught on with including myself, activists who are doing this full time, making videos, interviewing people, stuff like all this kind of stuff. It's not really there, is it? You're right. We're not focusing on one life. We're focusing on, here, look at this footage I got from inside the place, and there's hundreds of lives, which there's not much you can really do about that. You know what I mean? You can craft a video from it, but that, what you're doing is what needs to be done, really, doesn't it? Like, specifically, this camera does not move from this animal. You will see this animal for 100% of this video. You will see this animal, and that is really special because when you're walking around with the camera, you can't. It's hard to follow. You know what I mean? It's hard to get in there and get the right angle, get the right position. You can't go into the thing with them. You can't follow them from the farm to the slaughterhouse. You can't do that. They're not going to let you in
No,
the truck.
I worked as an undercover in slaughterhouses
Yeah.
around the world, not only in Israel,
Mm.
abattoirs, factory farming, and I never got so connected to an animal as watching this animal through my smartphone
Mm.
for 6 7 hours because it's a moving line. So you even sometimes I got to a situation where Nora looks, I petted an animal,
Mm.
before they killed her, but uh, um, it's always, you deal with this animal and then this animal, and the line is moving and everything's so fast. It's never through the eyes of one particular individual,
Yeah.
and you never get to meet their characters, the nuances of their lives. And I have to say that when you look at animals in farm sanctuaries,
Mm.
and there they really individualize the animals,
Mm.
I mean, they are individual, they're showing their
Mm.
individuality. um, it's easier in the sense that a sanctuary is a place that allows their uniqueness and their
Mm.
idiosyncratic character to
Yeah.
be manifested.
Yeah, you're totally
But
right.
if you put people, also, by the way, it's true with people,
Right.
put like me and you in the most horrible situation where, I don't know, people are trying to kill us and we're running away, you won't see much difference between David and Ronen, right?
Right.
We'll both be
Yeah.
terrified individuals who are just running.
Right.
You cannot say a lot, not about you and not about
No, for
me.
sure, man.
But when our character flourishes, is when we're giving some more space.
You're totally right, man.
So,
You're totally right, and it just
so,
shows in media
so
too. It shows in media too. They look at
yeah.
movies like The Hunger Games, look at which was loosely based, I guess, on the movie Battle Royale. The I think it was Korean. I can't remember. I don't know if you've seen it, but yeah, they throw a load of teenagers into a forest. They say kill each other. Everyone's running around fighting for their lives, but you don't care until you start to learn about their individual stories, and then you start to root for them. But yeah, without that, you just, who wants to watch a movie where people just running around killing each other, where you've no connection to the characters? Nobody wants to see that. You need a connection. You need some background. You need some, who are they? What's their name? Where do they come from? What do they value? What do they like? What do they dislike? Why are they fighting? And this
and
is,
and
yeah,
and I think in a sense you're right, but in a sense, what we're doing, trying to light the individuality of the animal,
absolutely.
it's the contrary to what the industry is trying to do, because the industry, they have the
Yep.
line, and every animal who does something not according to the line is a problem,
Right.
and they put them in such a hard situation that it's hard for them to show their individuality. But you see it with these little things, like, for example, Tomer. Tomer
Mm.
is a calf I followed for 7 hours. When he came to the slaughter house, there was one other calf who had his horn broken. You can see blood, and the horn is broken.
Mm.
And you see how Tomer comes to it and sniffs it. It really looks like he's empathetic to his situation.
Yeah.
And you see with Tomer, like, his head is always up. He's a very yeah, he has a lot of it seems like, he has a lot of self-confidence. He
Yeah.
always looks, he's very curious. Other animals are not like that. Their head is down, they're
Yeah.
so afraid.
Scared. Yeah.
But with him, something in his curiosity keeps him, searching and looking. But that changes once he enters the slaughter line. Then you see he swallows his saliva, he's always looking back. Suddenly you see like someone else there.
Mm.
So I think the nuances of their lives and their characteristics are so important to make people really connect.
Incredibly important, man. And it's now you mention all of this, I find it's so much more clear as to why not only the industry, you said the industry tries to squash that out, and that's true, they do try to squash that out, but it's not like they need much help because the average person on the street wants to hear none of it. When we as activists say, when I refer to a cow or a chicken as a someone, you find 9 times out of 10 they go someone. They're not a someone. It's like a snap reaction, because if they're a someone with a personality, which they are, of course, then that means that they're evil. They're an evil person. Instantly, if they continue to live the way they're living, instantly they're a bad person, and they can't face up to that. They have to agree with the industry. They have to be against the vegans. They have to say no, they're not someone's. They're just animals, plural, and there's just, that's all they are. Even in the slaughterhouse, they're just no, they're just things that go in and get processed. They're not somebody. None of them are somebody.
Livestock, livestock.
Absolutely, yeah. And it has to be that way for these people. And what you do here when you follow them like this, and you get to see all of this, you are disproving that concept just by the fact of having the camera on, and obviously being attentive to these things you just mentioned. You watch their behavior and you put it up on the screen so that even the untrained eye can see, oh no, this isn't just a mindless meat machine walking through. No, like look at there's some fear there. Oh look, this is some comfort. They're getting comfort from each other. Look at the popping their head up, like you said, very confident animal. This is a very not even the word animal even kind of devalues. This is a very confident someone right there. It's a very confident being, a confident person. I don't know. Some people don't like taking it as far as person, but I mean, there's a person in there, right? There's somebody in that
Definitely.
in that head, in that body.
Yeah, society is trying to de-animalize animals, but the funny thing is, if the same person, you take him to a sanctuary and he sees a chicken, he will not, I don't think he will say, no, this is not an individual, this is a stock, he will not say it. It's the same animal.
Right.
You just put it in a different situation, and suddenly the whole mind and the whole treatment is changed.
Yeah.
So we want to light that up.
Yeah. I've had people tell me, they say, but chickens don't have personalities and things like that, because and I tell people a chicken has the brain probably the size of a pea, tiniest little brain, one of the smallest probably ever. Probably, I don't know, mice probably the smaller ones, but whatever. And I've had chickens sit with me watching TV while another chicken's not interested at all. This chicken, she sits here watching House of the Dragon back when that was on. She sat almost the whole time just chilling, kind of watching the TV, looking at us, watching the TV. Why would they do that? Well, they want connection with the humans. They want to do what this chicken wanted to do. She wanted to do what the humans were doing. I mean, even a chicken has a someone inside them. That brain that big, and that's a someone that should tell you all you need to know about, animals in general. That if a personality can fit into something this big, I mean, people need to stop dismissing them so off the cuff because they're small or simple-minded. Yeah, but they can also have a personality, even if they have a very, small, simple mind.
Fish have personality.
Right.
There are amazing studies about fish and the things they do, and some fish use tools. We used to think only primates use tools, and also that is because of Jane Goodall. We used to think no other animal uses tools, and now they know fish use tools.
Right.
Birds, of course, use tools.
Yeah.
So animals have animal kingdom, animal kind. They have an amazing emotional lives. They dream. They think about the future. They fear, and the fact that they're not as close to us, it doesn't matter. We should stop comparing everything to us.
Yeah.
Who's closer to me?
Yeah, and we get to define what's more important, don't we? Like, but they're not like us. And okay, what's important to you? Well, my intelligence is important to me. Oh, well, that's interesting. Funny how it's not eyesight, say, for an eagle, for example, because then they'd win. Or funny it's not brute strength because a cow and a pig would win, right? Funny it's not. I would even go as far as saying that I think chickens have a more brave in when they're defending their young than most people I've seen, right? They're more savage. They get brutal, right? So, we make the rules. No. None of those things matter. It's just how smart we are. So how what we can do with our brains and using tools and things like that. We're so we can build, we can make music, and that's what's important, right? None of those things are important.
And even that, even that which is false, and the tests are false, like the mirror test. So we do the mirror test, then we see animals, some animals are very successful in this test. I think also, by the way, birds, and I think also even fish. But it's not like it changes everything. They pass this test which show more about humans, less about animals. But it's not like we're giving them rights. And even if it was intelligence, then how do you treat severely disabled people
Right.
who have,
Of course.
severely low functioning autistics? Would you say, okay, this person doesn't matter because he's not as smart as me, because he cannot create a sonata? No, you would not say that.
Right. Yeah. And there's the work of the massive hypocrite, but still interesting work of Temple Grandin, where she actually compared, not compared, but said cows behave like almost like severely autistic humans in that they can't verbalize anything, but their body language, that's how they communicate. And she saw some similarities between cows and humans with severe autism, which I found really interesting, which you don't try and tell that to a non-vegan, though. They tend to find that to be pretty hilarious and then just make a load of jokes about it. They don't take it very seriously. But I think there is a serious point to be made there. There's a lot of there's pretty much all animals communicate with mostly body language, and it's something we need to get on board with and realize that just because you don't understand it, it doesn't mean that they can't talk, right?
That's exactly the point. We say animals don't speak. They do speak. We just don't understand them. Some things we understand. So, for example, you have chicks. They make a lot of sounds, and they analyze the voices of chicks
Right.
in the hatchery.
Yeah.
Hatchery is, I think, the worst place. It's worse than a slaughterhouse. I think it's worse than a slaughterhouse.
Yeah.
And in hatcheries, they analyze the voice of chicken, and they saw this is the calling for the mother.
Yeah.
They're calling for the mothers in the hatchery, in the conveyor belt, being tossed around. So animals speak, we just don't understand. And by the way, with AI now, they're trying to decode the language of bats, of other animals.
Wow.
It's very interesting.
You said it's worse than a slaughterhouse. I mean, it is a form of slaughterhouse. These hatcheries, they are basically slaughterhouses because they, for those that don't know, they separate the male chicks from the female chicks so that they can get the female chicks into the egg laying farms. Get them bigger first, and then they start laying eggs. And the male chicks, they kill them, and they'll, depending on the place, depend on how they kill them, macerate them, throw them in a big machine that crushes them up and almost blends them alive. That's one way. They drown them in some places, a big bucket of water, they throw them in. In some places I've seen, they literally just pour them all into a bucket and then they just leave them because they're going to die. They're not getting food or water, and it's really, really, really hot for the ones on the bottom. So all the ones underneath will just die of suffocation, and the ones on top will eventually die from exposure to the elements. And that's how some places do it. So these places are worse than slaughterhouses, I would agree, and practically are slaughterhouses. They're killing hundreds of thousands, if not probably millions, probably into the millions, tens of millions even, of baby chickens every day across the world. Probably every day, I'm not sure.
It's billions. It's billions a year.
Right.
I don't remember the exact number.
Yeah.
But by the way, it's not just the egg industry. It's the meat industry as well.
Right.
The meat industry. I know like in Israel, they kill approximately the same number of male chicks and defected chicks in the meat industry. So they take the chicks. Sometimes they throw them a little bit. They see if they're not feathered enough. If they have some deformity in the leg, let's say, they will kill it.
Right. Yeah. It's yeah. There's no words for it, man. So obviously we've established here the reasons to do this, which I think I'm glad we started off there because that's really important. And we'll get to the practical applications later of this, like how this looks for, because like you guys watching the video, I guess you're thinking, okay, what can I do with this footage? How can I do something good with it? And stick around, because that to me, I've got to be honest with you, that to me is the most interesting part of this whole concept you've created, is what we can do with this footage. Obviously you can share it, but there's other things you can do that are just so much more powerful than just sharing it. So just stick around for that, guys. And thank you, by the way, to everybody who's sent through donations so far. We've got quite a lot, by the way, dude. I don't know if you've been seeing. Someone donated 50, 20. and a couple of 5s and 2 and 30. Thank you guys. It's amazing. Please keep them coming because, like I said, we are splitting that today between the two of us. Well, between the two of us, between myself and David Rams and everything we do, and your organization Sentient, we're gonna split it 50-50. Okay, I got a question for you. So, yeah, we established that it's a really good thing to do for all those amazing reasons, getting the individual animal on camera. So let's talk about the practicality of this. How are you getting this footage? Like, how are you getting the cameras on the animals?
So I would say to everybody's watching, if you can pet an animal, you can put a camera on it. It can be that simple. So you can meet animals in different stages of. I'm not going to get too much into specific things,
Of
but
course.
everybody's welcome to contact me. My email will be in the description of the video. But you can reach out to animals in different stages of their lives. And if you're able to be in a situation where you pet an animal, you can also put a camera on it. It just takes a few seconds. Um, and then from there, because the cameras are cellular, you have everything transmitted to your phone,
Right.
and actually you can be anywhere. So if I put a camera in, I don't know, in Ireland, you can watch it in the States,
Wow.
from the States, live. So you don't have to be anywhere because it's all transmitted to the internet.
Mm,
That's the beauty of it, and that's the easy thing about it.
mm,
It's disposable. You
mm-hmm,
don't get the camera back. If you needed to get the camera back, then you would have needed to be like a qualified undercover investigator, and it
mm,
will take a lot of time and effort. But the idea here is you're able to create footage, unique footage, also from within the most guarded, well guarded places without having the skill of an undercover investigator
mm.
and sometimes without having to do so much effort. It depends
Right.
on the circumstances.
Right.
So, for example, we got footage from the biggest abattoir in Israel,
Mm-hmm.
most guarded, actually a quite dangerous place.
Right.
It's not somewhere you could just go,
Mm-hmm.
and we were able to do it. I don't think we would have been able to do it in any other way. But this technology, aside from the individual concept, which we will talk about more
Mm-hmm.
going ahead, just allows you to penetrate very hard, very unattainable places with that guard themselves really well
Yeah, and
from exposing the truth. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, and it's I mean, yeah, like you said, this the only way that the people put hidden cameras in these places, which requires them to be, like you said, a professional investigator to be able to figure out how to get in, or even go and get a job in the place, and all this kind of stuff, which is, months and months, if not years of work. Whereas this, well, I mean, technically, somebody who goes to a vigil could do this, right?
Yeah, definitely,
Some vigils around
definitely.
the world, the drivers, they stop for a good long time and they don't really care. They see people shoving their hands in and stuff like that, touching the animals and things. For sure, like you said, if you can touch an animal, there's an opportunity there. Does it bother the animal at all when you
No,
yeah?
no, not at all. I'll talk about that just so I don't forget.
Okay.
If anyone wants to do it,
Mm,
please contact me. There are some safety issues. There are some things we cannot go into everything
okay.
here. But if you want to do it, please reach out to me, and we can also help you and even send you those cameras,
Yeah, you can't
ready-made
give all
cameras.
the secrets away today because this is public. You never know who's watching. It's basically what we're saying.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely. We can put your they've got the website, right? They can contact you through the website, right? Cool.
Yeah, but also my email is in the YouTube, so
Okay.
you can reach me there in the YouTube description of the video, right, David? You will put
In
it
this
there.
one, I didn't put the email in. No, just the website. But we can
Oh, okay.
yeah. If you want to
We can add it.
say the email now, then Annie can write it down and then she can put it in the chat.
Oh, great. So the email is Ronen, Ronen, at sentientworld.org.
Perfect. So Annie can put that in.
Ronen,
She'll have that. Yeah, you can put that in the chat, and then people can write that down if you want to know more. Then yeah. So you were saying it doesn't
so
bother the
yeah.
animal, right?
So we're highlighting the individual. So it will be very absurd if we were to hurt the individual
Right. Yeah.
during the process.
Yeah.
What we want to do is create empathy for this individual.
Mm.
The cameras are very light. We did a lot of tests, by the way, on our bodies and on animals
Oh, okay.
also. And we check animals, not animals that are now in factory farming. And we saw that it's just light enough that they don't really notice it.
Sure.
After it's put on them, these are heavy animals. We don't put it on chickens, but these are heavy animals. They don't, so they just don't notice it. sometimes other animals notice it, and they look and they're like curious, but
No.
and they're like doing selfies to the cameras. But generally speaking, it's not something that bothers them.
Right.
And I have to say, we did a lot of tests with that because, of course, if it would bother, we would see that they're trying to take it off or
Mm,
they're trying to shiver it, etc.
right.
It's just not uh, heavy enough for them to even notice it.
Right. I imagine, yeah, I don't know how heavy the cameras are, but when you said we're not putting it on chickens, I mean, I don't know why, but the idea of one of these little cameras being on a chicken kind of makes me laugh. I just can't imagine there ever being a camera small enough and sticky enough to stay on a chicken without bothering the chicken. You know, I just it's an interesting kind of a funny concept to me of a chicken running around with a little POV cam.
You never know with technology. You never know. If we would to do that, we would be sure that it's something that the chicken is not hurt
Yeah,
by
yeah,
that. But everything is possible. It's
right.
just a matter of creativity and finding the right solution.
I think it would be pretty incredible, though, honestly, thinking more seriously about it, because you obviously with the pigs and the cows and the sheep and goats and we can imagine it's a great to get everything from their perspective, but also we can kind of imagine it from their perspective because most people are the same height or slightly shorter or taller than a cow, and pigs we sit on the floor and we're the same height as a pig, so we can actually understand, oh, what must it be like to be at that height level. But for a chicken, that's you can't really get down low enough. And how often are you in that position that a chicken's in? Not very often,
Yeah.
right? So I imagine that would be really, really powerful to see the world from a chicken's eyes, and especially with the numbers, because chickens, it's by far the largest numbers of them that go through all this. So to have that.
Except fish. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. I'm thinking land animals. I mean, I don't know. Could you get I mean, if you could, a waterproof something like that for a fish would be. Yeah, I can't imagine the footage would be useful from that though. That's so fast. But yeah, land animals speaking, yeah, to attach that to a chicken and to see from their perspective all these thousands and thousands of other chickens going through this whole thing, it would be something. I think that would be really, really special. So I hope your R&D department's figuring that out, because that's something that would be. This is already really special, but I think that would be really like wow, something really next level actually. Um,
Yeah, I agree. And the
yeah.
thing we did do is we put a camera on the cage in the cage of
Mm,
a chicken,
right.
and they take the cage to slaughter. So actually, we even saw part of the
Ah.
slaughter. We saw everything like from the point of view of the chickens in the cage
Wow.
until they are killed and they are pulled one by one, and things like that. So it's not really on an animal, but
Mm.
it's on the cage. So it's maybe like
That's really
I
good.
don't know,
Yeah. That's
yeah,
really good. That's
some kind of a solution.
yeah,
I,
definitely.
I I have to say we have a history of filming through the eyes of the animals even before we really put cameras on animals.
Okay.
So we had an investigation before Sentient. I was with the Anonymous for Animal Rights. It's an Israeli organization,
Okay.
and we did an investigation which showed from the chick's point of view the first day in his life, and it got really viral. So you
Mm.
see, like they toss him around in the conveyor belt, and you really see everything from the height of the chick.
Right.
We really, there was a camera on the conveyor belt who just went around with the chicks,
Wow.
camouflage camera. So it's an amazing video. I can send it to you.
Yeah.
To see, and it's really very interesting because when you look at it from the outside, like you have, let's say, a conveyor belt, and then they go up, and then they are tossed to another conveyor belt. When
Right.
you look at it from the side,
Yeah.
it seems scary, but what you don't understand, and you see it when you see the footage,
Mm.
that the chick doesn't see what's coming next. So even
Right.
things
Right.
that don't seem that scary, you just see you going up, and there's nothing afterwards.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it creates a different experience and a different understanding of what the animal's going through.
Yeah, man. I can't even. Yeah. That I'd like to see that footage, dude. It'd be difficult, like being your friend, hanging out with you, man. You could just have cameras everywhere. I'd never leave you alone in my house. How are you getting these cameras and such? That is a crazy place to get a camera. You got one on the conveyor belt moving along. That is absolutely wild, man. Yeah, you got
By the way,
innovative.
the first investigation we did with Sentient was actually it was a 360 investigation in an abattoir
Mm,
of ducks and chickens, and you can really see everything. And we also had We also put like we did with the VR glasses. We put it on even members of the parliament in Israel and people on the
Wow.
street, um, etc. But I wanted to say this. It was the only incident I know that 360 cameras were used undercover, so the workers didn't know that there were cameras there. Some activists did came and did wonderful job in filming 360,
Yeah.
going to abattoirs with with the cover series and things like that.
Right.
But we managed like to camouflage the cameras, and it was, I think, too hardcore for most of people to see, because after they slaughtered the ducks, you saw that almost a lot of ducks were alive. Like
Right.
I think maybe 50% of the ducks were alive, and
Right.
some were even entering the feathering machine alive.
Right. And you got all of that, like this was with the 360 cameras, you were getting all of that,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. You were showing people that in VR.
Yeah.
Jesus, man. Yeah, that does sound like a bit much. Yeah. But it's obviously
it's a
it's
bit much.
real, but I imagine most people are gonna want to get that headset off immediately.
It was funny because we didn't know how to present. We said you can see on virtual reality, but it's real reality. So we call it like real reality.
Right.
It's not virtual reality; it's real reality. But you see it in the VR set.
Yeah. Jesus, man. Yeah, I mean, I can't. Did you do that with like the public, like street outreach as well with them?
Yeah.
Oh my
Yeah, as
God.
well. Yeah, together with Vegan Friendly, we had. It was in 2017 and 18.
Damn, man.
We had a campaign with Vegan Friendly together.
Dude, I imagine that ruined some people's lives, man. But they should if they're paying for it. That sounds absolutely horrific. I don't want to see it. I'm hearing that. It sounds
Okay.
like that's
We'll spare it. We'll spare you.
too far for me, man. Jesus. So all right, back to the camera on animal then. So you mentioned briefly earlier, but I want to get more into clarify this. So how do you get the footage? Because so you put the camera on the animal, success. Okay. Now you've got to get that footage. So how does this go?
So it live stream to your phone, and in the phone, in the app, you have an app which governs, everything. Which I don't know if governs the right word, but you have an app,
controls
and then
everything.
in the app controls everything, and then you can record. So you're just recording it on your phone, then you can share it to your computer or
Right.
whatever. It's very simple. It's
Yeah.
just like think about a live Facebook. I don't know, going live on Facebook somewhere on the street. So the live is with the animal. So that's how we do it.
Wow.
And later on, we can use the footage, as we said, in many different ways.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, it blows my mind that there's a way to, live stream this to your phone. Like you can see it right there and then. But then I guess it shouldn't be so mind blowing because this kind of technology's taken off over in the USA. They've got these, what do they call it? Ring devices now where you can live stream a camera looking at your front door, and so I guess the technology is there for it now. I had no idea that it was this good, that you can literally stick a camera somewhere, without any power source, like into the wall. It's just on its own and it can transmit. It just blows my mind.
And camouflaging it was one of the hardest. It needs to be, of course, very small. So the camouflage is a big challenge. The experience of watching it live is very personally, I have to say, it's very intense.
Right.
I'm not someone who I would say is very sensitive. I worked in a slaughterhouses. I have to do even horrible things with my own hands. Otherwise, I couldn't help animals. I worked also in Australia in horrible places and other. But I have to say something about this experience of watching everything live from the perspective of an animal. You really feel the uncertainty. Like the animal is in the slaughter line, and he goes, and suddenly they close on him. You think they're gonna kill him, but no, it opens. He continues to go, and then you see something else. You don't know what's gonna happen in every second, and it's not like that when you're watching an edited video after hours. Here you're with him in this second. Everything can happen. It's a bit stressful. I have to say, it's a bit stressful.
Right, because you're living it through them, basically, right? And it's not like, you're right. You're totally right. When it's an edited video, it's not live. It's still disturbing, but it's not live. It's not happening right now. And there's a certain disconnect there that, like, you get to experience. You get to be a little bit like, well, it's already happened, so at least it's done. You know what I mean? At least this is something that happened a while ago, and at least that animal's no longer. But when you're watching it live, it's yeah, it's no, this is happening right now. These everything you're watching is happening at the same time that I'm sitting here, and I feel this way, they feel this way, we're sharing this, and so I can totally,
And
yeah, see that.
and you can live stream it to your social media as
Right.
well, so people can see it as well.
Mm.
Um, yeah.
Well, let's go into
There
that
was one
now.
other
Mm.
thing I wanted to say about that, but I
If it
forgot.
comes back to you, then just go for it, man, anytime.
Sure.
So let's get into that now. So you talked about there's one of the ways you've said to use it would be to you could live stream it. So you could run a YouTube live stream or a Facebook live stream, Instagram. If you can figure out, Instagram might be a bit funny with the whatever whatever. There's ways of doing it. You can figure it out. But yeah, there's ways of taking this footage and streaming it. So that's one way, and I think that's obviously very powerful for people to see it live, of course. But I'm more excited about the other things we discussed actually when we first met. So talk us through how you see this working the most, I don't know, the most effectively, because you've got some big
Effectively.
plans, right? So tell us about these kind of ideas you've got for activists and how they can use it.
Just I wanted to say I remembered that
Yeah, go.
the thing I like about, one of the lies that the slaughter industry, by the way, I like the word slaughter industry better than the meat industry,
Right.
so this is the term I use.
Yeah.
So the slaughter industry is trying to always convey the message that, oh, these videos are edited,
Right.
they are manipulated, it's an isolated incident. There are millions and millions of isolated incidents. um, but here, what can you say? I'm not the one who took the picture. It's the animal. The
Right.
animal is the investigator. I'm not the filmer. I'm not doing anything.
Right.
I cannot.
You can't
I
focus
cannot
the
decide the
camera. You can't
angle.
zoom
I
in
cannot
here.
focus.
Yeah.
I cannot do anything.
Yeah.
It's the animal. So if they have complaints about the footage being manipulated, please tell Danny and Tomer and Max that they are manipulating the footage.
No,
Sorry,
it's
back to
yeah.
your
I
question.
think that I want to
Yeah.
talk about that for a minute. That's a really good point because you can't even turn the camera to the left or the right. You can't do anything. It captures what it captures. And if it happens to capture things that shock people and things that are disgraceful, which it does, then well, that's just because your industry is disgraceful. It's because your industry is an industry of violence. These are not isolated incidents. This is how it works, which is why you could put a camera on any animal anytime and you'll see similar footage. And the fact that, oh, it's an isolated incident. Okay, so you guys put out, let's say, 10 cameras and 10 of them come back in random places around the world with violence. Oh, isolated incidences. What are the chances of you catching isolated incidences from, let's be frank here, a crappy, like, in terms of like filming quality or whatever, it's
Yeah.
low quality. You can't control it. You can't focus it. All you can do is stick it somewhere and see what happens. And it still captures violence and it still captures all of this. And you're telling us,
Let
oh,
me tell you
isolated
some of the
incident.
things. Yeah, let me tell you just some of the things we captured during these 11 cameras, something like that, that we put on animals. So you have an animal, Danny. By the way, we'll talk about the ear tag also.
Yeah, man.
We have an animal, Danny, who's his character is a very scared animal, and he moves around with every flick. So you see, like the worker is doing him like this in the ear,
Yeah.
and he moves around so very fast. But the animal ahead of him is not like that. He freezes, and because he froze, they beat him. He continues to freeze. They took an electric probe and shove it in his anus again and again and again in order to make him move.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that we see in so many places. I saw it in Australia. I saw it in Israel when I worked undercover.
Yeah.
So we caught that. You have animals which are you have a lot of trucks have two floors. So the camera was on an animal that was on the bottom floor, and you see feces from the upper floor coming down on the faces of these animals. You see animals are hitting with a stick. And you saw, I'll just say one more thing
Yeah,
that we saw
yeah.
on all of this and a lot more just with these cameras.
Yeah.
Tomer, this is his number, by the way. We can see his real number
Okay.
um, with the cameras. It's 4702, and here on the other side I have his name.
Okay.
Yeah, on the one side is the number, and the other side is the name.
Yeah.
So with Tomer, we were in the slaughter line, and slaughter lines are built very narrow, so the animals cannot turn around. Of course, they are afraid. They're trying. Like Tomer went after the slaughter line, walking back twice, but at the end they closed the gate on him, and he cannot go back. So you cannot turn around. This is how they do the slaughter lines.
Hmm.
And Tomer was really, he wasn't able to turn around, but the animal in front of him, and maybe you saw it in the 6 minute
Mm.
footage, he was so scared, he managed to somehow turn around because he was smaller than Tomer,
Mm.
and he went on Tomer, on the animal that, sorry, Tomer is just an Israeli name. I don't know, maybe it's hard for you to
It's fine. Yeah, it's a name.
think
It's
about it, but yeah,
yeah.
he went on the animal, and you can see that the horn of Tomer is pressing against the stomach of this animal,
Mm.
but he continues to go up, up, up. He's so scared, he wants to get out of there. So I think these are the kind of stories that is important for us to convey from an individual perspective.
Mm.
And for me, one of the big changes in my mind, that this technique and this whole concept, which is much much bigger than the technical tool,
Mm.
this whole concept of the individual, is when I speak to people today about the slaughter industry,
Mm.
I might start regularly, like, did you hear what happens to animals in the
Right.
slaughter industry or something? But a lot of times I start very differently. I start, did you hear the story of Danny?
Hmm.
Like, who the fuck is Danny? Oh, let me tell you who's Danny. And I'm personally connected to Danny. I think one of the important thing is that people see what's happening to animals
Hmm.
through you personally. A lot of times, just seeing the atrocities and what happens to animals is just not enough.
Right.
People tend to be much more empathic towards other human people and not animal
Right.
people. So I can tell them about Danny because I spend 6 hours watching him
Hmm.
every second,
Yeah.
and they see something about him through me.
Right.
So for me, it's I start with, did you hear the story of Danny, and then I tell the story of Danny, but through the micro, through the story of the individual, you tell them about the whole industry.
Right.
So for example, Tomer is a calf which came from Portugal in the live export, and I
Hmm.
can explain what is a live export. And like we said, I can explain why the slaughter line is built very narrow,
Hmm.
and why do the electric problem in it, etc. So
Yeah.
through the individual, you get the whole picture, not only of this individual, but everybody. And I think the combination is the real powerful stuff,
Yeah.
not just the numbers, not just the stories, stories plus numbers.
Yeah, no, I think this is the part that most excited me about your footage is the application of it with vegans and activists on the street and the way you've just said. And you are right that this can help. This can help with some people. This will help jump forward a couple of steps, because instead of it being a do you support that, or I don't know, how do you feel about that? It's more a case of this is so. For example, if we're talking about Danny again, you can ask them the question. You can talk them through. Look. Here's how Danny. You see how he reacted here. You see how he's different from the other cows. You see how his head is up. It was Danny with the head up, right?
With the
Danny was with
sorry.
his head up. Danny was the
Oh
cow.
no, this was
That was
Tomer.
Toma.
Danny was very scared.
So
He moves for every flick, like he moves, he
that was
runs.
Danny. Okay, so
Yeah.
yeah, so you're right. So that's what you could say. Like, look how timid he is, and then you can say, look, and this is Toma, and you see how Toma is very confident. Actually, it's very difficult to move Toma. He's a stubborn, really stubborn, and but he gets scared in the end. You see how his energy changes. Do you agree with me when I say these are both individuals? Would you say these are individual animals with individual personalities and individual likes, dislikes here? Yes, I would agree. They're definitely individuals. Great. So you agree that there's personalities in there that they're both someone's. I agree. And you're gonna,
And
because
is it right? Is it right what they did to them? What
exactly,
we are doing? Is it right for Danny? Not like, is the slaughter industry right? Is Danny's journey, what happened to Danny, was justified?
exactly.
Yeah.
And this is where you're gonna open somebody up a little bit more there, because most people aren't monsters. And in outreach scenarios, whenever you mention somebody's dog, you see them light up, or in with a lot of men, they go from being all like, "Rrr," and then all of a sudden they're like, "I'd never do that to my dog. How dare you suggest that?" And they get defensive over the dog. A lot of women tend to get more emotional when you mention the dog. Oh no, I love my dog, and it switches. So you're going to get that same perspective if you talk them through the story. They're going to have that same feeling that they would have for a dog or cat, because now this cow is no longer a cow. This is Danny. This is Toma. This cow has just crossed the line, and they're not a member of your family, but they're definitely a lot closer to that than they were before, right? And this is what most excites me about the outreach. And so if you had it, so imagine if you could flick a switch, boom, tomorrow, like how would you personally want to? So you could change every activist in the world, street activist in the world doing outreach. Is this what you would want them doing? You would want every single person, ideally, to have their own story that they followed an animal with this same way as you. Is that kind of your? Is that a goal of yours actually to have this way?
I mean, my goal is to enhance the variety of options for activists. I'm
Okay.
not wise enough to say to people what an activist what they should do and what they shouldn't do.
Hmm.
I don't know their crowd. I don't know their circumstances.
Sure.
I don't know what's natural and coming good to them. You
Hmm.
know, I mean, effective is also what comes better for you.
Right.
Some people are very effective at doing something. If I would have done it, it would have been effective.
Right.
You know,
Sure.
um, uh, if I were doing the things that Tash Peterson was doing, I'm not sure it will be very effective. But she does it, and it's very effective for her.
You're
You
gonna
know,
put on a
so
bikini and go
yeah,
outside
I'm
with a
not sure.
sign.
I'm not sure. Maybe I should try it. But anyway, you know, so I'm not in the position to tell anyone what to do. I'm
Mm-hmm.
just trying to open up opportunities for
Mm.
activists to think differently about things and
Mm.
try it out. And if it's good for them, they can continue with them. I think that the applications of this tool, by the way, are a bit wider maybe
Mm.
than we depicted. First of all, you can use the footage for the media,
Okay.
for the press,
Yeah.
and it can be interesting because it's something new. You can use the footage for specific campaigns against brands. By the way, think about the slogan. It's a fictional slogan that I just made up. Milka wants to kill Kylie.
Right.
Milka is, the big
Yeah. Chocolate.
milk brand.
Oh.
Not Milka is hurting animals, Milka is abusing animals, not something vague. No, Milka wants to kill Kylie, the specific animal that you found. It doesn't have to be with a camera on him. If you come to a dairy farm and you come again and again and you follow the same individual,
Mm-hmm.
and you give it a name and you make a personal connection to
Right.
Kylie, let's say,
Mm.
it doesn't have to be with the camera on animal. The camera on animal is just one tool
Right.
for the
Okay.
individual concept.
Yeah.
So this is what I'm trying to do, and I
Okay.
think that many activists can use. We call it individual outreach.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me if it's a good name. Personal outreach. How would you call like the outreach that
Mm.
you explaining everything through the eyes of the individual? What name would you give it?
Oof. It's tough. It's tough because individual outreach definitely doesn't roll off the tongue, right?
Yeah.
And but for it to roll off the tongue, like for example, your cube of truth rolls off the tongue. The I don't know, save square rolls off the tongue. They've all got these kind of gimmicky. I don't know. It could, I don't know, something like one outreach could be something like that because it's all about the one individual. Something that sounds powerful and cool. And it's not. I mean, it shouldn't be important, obviously, but it is.
It is. It is. Of
Yeah, it
course
is. It is. It has to be. But yeah, I mean, packaging it in one way. The packaging is important, but I can't agree with you more on the concept itself. You mentioned Tash Peterson. Look, what I think I asked you, would you like everybody to do this? And I appreciate your humble response. But I actually would say I do want everybody to do this. I would like that someone, we use Tash Peterson as an example. She goes out, she got the sign, she does what she does to get the attention. And then when she's got the attention, and the sign could even say it, something about one individual animal as she's followed, she can get people over using use the phone, so it can be incorporated into whatever anybody's already doing, as long as they're talking to the public. This can be incorporated into it, and I think it would be just so much more impactful than. So for example, yeah, so you see Joey goes on Piers Morgan or whatever and pulls out his phone and goes, this is gas chamber footage. And yeah, that's very impactful. It is. And there's nothing wrong with that. But imagine if he goes on there and he's got gas chamber footage from one specific pig who came from the farm and the transport. And then he says, this is the name of this pig. This is their story. Look at this from farm. And then look here. Now they're being forced. Now they're being electric prodded and they're being forced into a gas chamber. And now here is where this is going to be, the end of their life. And the camera keeps rolling even after they've died. And, you just, that takes it to another level for me. So
I think I have a few comments. So first of all, activists can use that without the camera. So for example, like we
Sure.
said, if you
Yeah.
come to a dairy farm again and again, if even someone else is putting a camera, but you're the one who's watching the footage, or you're just watching the footage of an animal that, a rerun of that
Sure.
footage, or even a farm sanctuary. If you have an animal there that you're connected to, people need to see your personal connection to the animal. I think
Yes.
that you're personally connected to, not generally. You specifically had some connection to an animal. So I think it can be used in like many different ways.
Yeah.
That's one comment, and I had another comment, which I
But
forgot.
I agree. No, I agree. You're right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, whether it's camera on animal, the individual, focusing on individuals is definitely something that, yeah, a lot of mainstream, I suppose, animal rights activism kind of misses, or when we try to do it, maybe it doesn't pan out so well. I've seen it a couple of times myself. For example, I mean, maybe we can talk about maybe where it doesn't work and what does it need. Maybe let's get into that. This is an interesting concept. Like, what does it need to work, right? So, for example, I've seen videos where there are multiple animals in the shot, and they try to have the viewer focus on one animal, and it feels to me it's felt very forced, and it's felt very. I understand and I appreciate what they're trying to do, but it doesn't work sometimes, right? And it doesn't hit because it's not, I don't know, it's not filmed correctly, or it's they're trying to make a story out of footage that doesn't work with the story because it's too difficult to actually identify who's who. This is where it's different with humans. You could have a group of humans and identify one person and follow that one person through any group because we just get them immediately. We see what they look like, and that's them. That's that. With 100 chickens, right? Even with cows, you take your eye off for a minute and then wait, which one was the one I was just following? If the camera's wide angle. What do you think? Have you seen okay, what is best practices for this then? Do you have, like, maybe that's a good rather than rather than what do you call it? Criticizing, let's flip it and let's say, what are the best practices for somebody who wants to do an individual focused video or campaign? What are the best things to do?
So I just want to say, like, as some indicator that how do you know that you have a personal story?
Right.
By the way, we also call it animal storytelling.
Right.
Like,
That's
what's
that's
the
that's pretty.
we're trying?
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, we're trying to develop the whole concept of animal storytelling, and this tool is just one way of doing that. Of
Right.
course, it's much wider than that. So animal storytelling.
Yeah, that's good. I like
Um,
that. That's the name. That being the name of the concept makes sense to me. That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you need to have a nuanced look. A nuanced look means that you can depict something in this animal's life, but it's not like the harsh things, the more gross things, the more robust things, like they electric prod him or they slashed his throat or something like that. But to say something which is much more subtle on that animal, and that actually is very important. I think the subtle. He swallows his saliva and he's always look backwards, always looking backwards.
Okay.
For example, we had a calf which likes to play with his tail,
Right.
and he used to hide the camera a lot with the tail, because play goes on. That's what his thing. He loves to brush his back with the tail. You need to have you see you smiled. You need to have something small. The small things are very important.
Right.
Um, so I think the best practices. I think it's very hard practically to do it if it's not deliberated beforehand. And what I mean is, take investigation footage that you already have when you didn't think about the individual and try to force it into a story.
Right.
It's not going to work.
Yeah.
For me, the difference between a story and a situation is the difference, like, between a picture and a video. A picture, let's say you see a polar bear in an ice cap, and you see that the ice cap is melting. That's not a story.
Right.
It can be powerful. It can be a very powerful thing indeed. Pictures, change the minds of people, but they're not stories. A picture is just a snap of reality in a certain second, in a certain moment.
Yeah.
A story is a video, is the change on time. If you only have 1 minute of the animal, it's very hard to create a story from 1 minute.
Right.
It's very hard because, again, these animals are in a situation where they're de-animalized. Their personality is taking away from them as much as possible. For the slaughter industry, they're not interested in persons.
Yeah.
They're interested in machines and in flesh. So you need to have more time. So if you come back and back to the animal, or if you put a camera on an animal, it's 4 hours. If you can really have the more time you have with the animal or farm sanctuary, the better it is. That I think the best practice. And then you started noticing the things about his character, about the voyage he's going through, and you get off the generic narrative. And what I mean when I say generic narrative, and we have that as people who talk about animal rights and explain, you already know the meat industry is,
Right.
the egg industry is killing all the male chicks, and then they're debeaked, and then it's going like that. That's the generic narrative. And you have to put inside the generic narrative things which are not generic.
Yeah.
The fact that Tomer had a calf who turned around and then went on him to run away from the slaughter. It's not generic. It's not something that every animal goes through.
Yeah.
And it's very important to tell that. So I think if you have those elements, the nuance look of the animal, the more time you have, and the things which are beyond the generic and highlighting some of the characters and some of the idiosyncratic elements of this specific animal's
Yeah.
voyage. Not everybody's voyage. Not everybody's the same. Tomer's journey is different from other animals. I think
Yeah.
these are the elements that can create their personal story.
100%. I think that's really good advice. I think it's the same elements that you would say to do the same thing for humans as well. The second you generalize humans, and I use a human example because we're all humans, so we know what this sounds like. Even vegans, we fall prey to this trap when it comes to animals. When we talk about humans, though, very rarely would you say, you're trying to really try and reach people. You would never say they did this to this many hundreds of thousands of people. You would say, if you were really trying to craft a story and trying to get people to care, you would always look for what's the most interesting story here, the tearjerker. Someone, can I interview you? Like, who is this? What have you been through? And hopefully, or the friend of somebody who went through it, who's dead now. Like, okay, what kind of person were they? You film their reaction, you get their emotions, and this is, if you were trying to craft a story to move people, this is what you would do. You wouldn't just put out, like you just said, you wouldn't just put out numbers. Oh, here's generally what happened. So we need to, I agree with you, we need to start to apply that to animals too, because we have fallen victim to the same traps as the meat eaters fall victim to. We're not doing anything to them, but in the sense of, I don't know what the word would be. Physically, we're not harming them, right? But in the oh God, what's the word I'm looking for? Give us a word.
I would say we are eliminating their individuality.
Yes.
And I think that we as vegans are doing that a lot, especially with wild animals, I have to say.
Right.
Because the whole environmental terminology is eliminating the individual animal, and it gets soaked up to us, animal rights activists, so much that we don't even notice that we're doing that. So, for example, when I talk to even animal rights activists and I say to them about, I call it the wild animal genocide. The genocide, we know that there was a 70% decline in the population of vertebrates since the 70s,
right,
according to the Living Planet Index. So that's a massive genocide. So I read some interesting article a few years ago that calculated one of the things they did in the article, they calculated the number of primate monkeys, just in the 90s, who died from deforestation.
right.
Again, just primate monkeys, just the 90s, just deforestation, and it was 300 million monkeys.
Right.
But it was a scientific paper, and it was mentioned in a very dry way.
Yeah.
Like, okay, we think this is the number. The headline was not the primate monkeys genocide. That's what I think should be the headline.
Right.
The headline was, is the cup half empty or half full? Primate conservation, something like that.
Right. Okay.
Primate conservation.
Yeah.
So there is this crazy thing of wild animal genocide. And when we say something like, oh, the meat industry is causing deforestation, is causing environmental harm, we're actually hiding the sentient and highlighting the insentient.
Right.
That's what we're doing.
Sure.
This is also why the word green is so strong in the terminology. I used to be part of I used to be in the like leadership of a party in Israel, which is called the Green Party, the Green Movement,
Right.
the Green Movement Party. But green is the insentient. It's not the sentient, right? It's the trees.
Of course, yeah.
So why aren't we saying the slaughter industry is exterminating primate monkeys and butterflies and snails and fish and everything? And we say, oh, it hurts the environment. And if you think about it, we would never talk like that about humans.
Yeah, you're right.
Never. Why aren't we saying where there's something crazy going on? Let's say in Ukraine, a lot of people are dying. why don't we talk about Ukraine conservation? And why don't we
Yeah.
say, and by the way, why don't we say the environment is hurt? We have
Right.
the environment. The environment is not only for what happens in nature, it's only also what happens in the city, right?
Yeah.
Think about it for a second and see how absurd it is. If
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
put the same terminology, you would say, instead my neighbor was murdered, you would say, oh, there is environmental problems in my neighborhood.
I
You would
understand.
say it like that. It's listen, it's a crazy thing, and we eliminate the individual wild animals from the conversation and from everything. So I think we should bring back the individual. If it's the wild animal, if it's the farmed animals, we should bring them and highlight them.
No, you're totally right. And when people say the environment, they often include animals in that, but they never include humans in that. It would be we're doing this for the
Exactly.
environment, and we're also going to help people. But animals are just they're just, yeah. And what the word I was looking for, I think, was conceptualize. I think
Yeah.
even though we've all become vegan here, mostly in the chat everyone's vegan, we have we still conceptualize animals as this. Well, we still love them, we care for them, but they are still in our eyes this kind of, it's hard to explain. Yeah, as a concept, we don't talk about them individually. And I think okay, an explanation for this could simply be as a defense mechanism, because the second we start to actually stop looking at them as a monolith, is the moment where, you know, a lot of people are going to break down. Because if you acknowledge that each one of these animals is an individual, a person, a someone, then you've also got to acknowledge what's about to happen to them. And for a lot of vegans, maybe that's just too tough. I mean, for the work that you do, this must be incredibly difficult if you're an investigator to actually look at them and not have the guard up, right? So I imagine a lot of vegans keep that guard up and find it hard to individualize them, because hey, if they do that, they're gonna have a meltdown. You know, you think that's
Yeah, I
possibly
think
something to it?
definitely, and I think at the end, and I'm going to say something. It's not as a criticism, but I think it's more uh, to help sometimes also open our eyes. We
Mm,
live in such a speciesist society that we think that we're vegans or animal rights activists. It means we're not speciesist. It doesn't
oh,
mean
for
that.
sure.
It's soaked in so deep
Yeah,
in the
man.
language, in the thought process, in everything. It's very hard to step away from that, and I think it's a process. I'm always trying to continue this process of stepping away
Mm,
from speciesism. I have a lecture I give sometimes on the how to become like a full-time activist, how to spend most of your time and or money
mm,
for animals. I call it being a changer. A changer was someone who spends most of his time on money
mm.
for animals. So you have
Okay.
like a meat eater, a vegan, an activist, and a changer. And I ask, one of the first questions I ask is, why aren't you? Oh, the first question I ask is, do you think what's happening to animals is the most important thing? And everybody raise their hands.
Mm,
And then I ask, who here spends most of his time? And most don't raise their hands. And then I ask why. And one of the most interesting answers I got, and I never thought about it before, was because we're speciesists.
mm,
It's soaked in so deep.
mm,
So I think we have to always keep reminding ourselves how speciesist we I mean that it's very hard to turn away from that,
mm,
and we always change in that direction. But of course, it doesn't mean that strategically it's always the best thing to do. So for example, I try to use a language which is quite different, and sometimes not all people understand it, etc. It doesn't mean always that like the non-speciesist view is the effective one. I'm not saying that.
okay.
Sometimes you got to speak in the language that people understand.
Sure. Yeah. Of
I'm just
course.
saying we have to be aware of it and choose the right path, the best effective path for us.
Yeah. No, I understand what you're saying, and I'll clarify this, because there might be some people who've got this far who actually are new to all this as a concept. But the idea speciesism isn't a word that was just created by us here and now. It's actually pretty established. Universities talk about it and stuff, and it's part of the, not that it means it's right, but it's a concept, is what I'm saying. It's a concept that has been studied, that has been discussed, that has been philosophized over, and it's the idea, well, like racism, sexism, and the other isms, there is also a speciesism. So it's that most people will dismiss or criticize, or that's not the word, discriminate against another animal simply because they're another species, and that's it. And I just had a quick thought just now. You could go as far as saying that the like transatlantic slave trade was also speciesism, because that the people were saying they're not human, and that's why it's okay to do that to them. That we all often look at that as racism, but actually it was speciesism, because that, they're below us, they're subhuman, so therefore we can do what we want. And that concept, it's no longer there for most people. Thankfully, it's no longer there for other humans, speciesism, but it is still there for the animals that aren't human, and that's where we run into problems, even as vegans. Conceptually, we run into problems, not physically, because no vegan is harming animals anymore, but conceptually, absolutely, you'll find people saying things that are pretty speciesist by accident, and you kind of catch yourself sometimes with a belief you have, and like, wait a minute, why do I think that? Why would I do so much for this animal but not this animal? And there's no real reason. It's like, wow, it's just a meaningless preference that could harm the other ones. It's a speciesist preference, but there is harmless speciesism also. I think that, just the meaning that there are preferences that are just like, they're never going to have any outcome, so it doesn't matter. But then there are very serious ones, and that's why most people aren't vegan, basically. Right? That's serious speciesism. That's a really violent speciesism, that you'll love a dog but kill a cow or a pig for a burger, basically. Yeah.
It's such a profound thing, but I think also it's even more profound that people live in absurdity and they're not consistent with their own values, because most people will tell you, I'm not for killing animals. I'm sorry. I'm not for abusing animals.
Right.
And when they see what happens to Danny, most people will say, no, I'm against that.
Right.
And you have these polls in the States which show that, like, I think it was 40% want to close down all slaughterhouses.
Oh man.
People live in absurdity. They don't live their values. It's not like most people are speciesists in the sense that they're saying, oh, I think it's justified. I've never met a person who said to me, it's justified to throw the one-day-old chicks to a conveyor belt and smash their heads. It's justified to take babies away from us. I didn't. We speak to a lot of people, and they say, yes, I think we should continue to eat meat, but they never said that torture is justified.
Right.
No one accepts that. So actually, people live in this duality.
Absolutely. Yeah, it really frustrates me. I've seen I'm not going to name names, but I've seen a couple of activists and YouTubers and vegans use this quote to say, hey, look, X% of people are against factory farm, X% of people are against this, and X%. So what we need to do is we need to bring them in, because they believe what we believe. It's just that, it's just this, and we need to open up. We need to loosen the what do you call it? Make the pill smaller. So like barriers. Yeah, we need to bring them into our movement. These people who say, look, if you ask 1 million people whether they're for or against shooting cows in their head, most of them are going to say they're against it. They just say what they think they should say to be a good person. It doesn't make them good people. It doesn't mean they're actually willing to take an action. And
yeah, but it's a sprout. It's a sprout. By the way, I agree.
It's a flex, man. It's a flex. That's all it is. They're just flexing. They're just like, oh, I'm so good, I'm going to tick the right box. It means nothing to their personal life. It means
no, but let me tell you.
Yeah, go ahead, man.
I see it a bit differently.
Yeah, go for it.
I think that for every vegan or vegetarian, you have at least 3 or 4 people who completely agree with everything that we say, ideologically, completely, 100%,
Yeah.
but they're just unable to do it because they're weak, because
Right.
many things, but they agree with you completely. I think these people we have to bring in, and many others, because we're much stronger. I mean, our general... can you see? Oh, you have...
It's okay, man. Sorry, it just kind of went funny. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. I'm saying there's something I think very powerful in the sense that most people fundamentally in a lot of things agree with you. That's a big power. That's a big power. I don't think we should dismiss that.
No.
It doesn't mean now that they would go vegan, because most people, are weak and think they have a lot of problems, and they're not going to go like this far. But it doesn't mean that they don't agree with you, and this agreement is very important, and they can do a lot of stuff to help animals, even if they're not.
No, for sure. I guess I'm not saying to dismiss it. It's not. Please don't interpret it as that. But what I'm saying is, we need to take self-reported things like surveys with a big bucket of salt. That's all I'm saying. It means that people are open to the idea of listening to us and having the discussion. That's great. That's not a small thing. It doesn't mean they're on our side yet, right? It means that ideologically, maybe they get it somewhat, but on some level, like I said, Most people just want to be seen and feel like they're good people, which is why if you said to people, hey, do you think kids starving in a faraway country is a big, big issue? They'll tick the box that says yes. And then below that, will you send £5 to those kids? They'll tick the box that says no. Yeah, this is the kind of, like you said earlier, it's a duality, it's absurdity. This is the world we're in, what we're struggling with. But the fact that most people do want to be seen as good and want to feel like good people does work to our benefit. So I totally agree with you. It shouldn't be dismissed, but we definitely need to learn how to navigate all of the nonsense people come out with and get to the bare bones of it. Try and get to the point very quickly. What will you do about this? And I think what you've got here and your idea, the individuality of the animal, gets us way closer to that step where we can say to somebody, now we're here, we connected emotionally, you're moved, maybe they're even close to tears at this point. Now it's like, all right, what are you going to do about it? You're far more likely to get a good response there and go, do you know what? Like, I can't eat meat anymore. You're far more likely to get that versus pointing at a screen of something from Dominion, right? That's obviously powerful and sad, but I found many times that people have seen this kind of thing before and now they've grown a bit maybe hardened to it and they kind of already justified it to themselves. But with what you're doing with the individual, you can't. I mean, how are you going to justify that? This is an individual. This is somebody we've followed and we've seen their story, and this is far more difficult for them to cast away. And I think that's where the big benefit of your concept and your idea comes in.
Yeah, I think people should try it, and they could combine also many different things, like a movie with an individual, or so there are many ways to mix those things together. Because I think you should always play
Yes.
with the individual, the micro, and the macro, and the numbers,
Yes.
and bring it all together. And now we're too much focused on the generic stuff.
Totally. Yeah.
Um,
Totally, man.
so there are many things. It's a playground. I think people just should try and see
Yeah.
what works. In my experience, and it's something new, so we haven't tried a lot. But there's some with some people, it works better. The individual, they're like
Yeah.
soaked into it, and it's like something that makes them see things from a different perspective.
Well, humans are emotional animals. It's like 80-20. 80% of the people you meet are going to be driven by emotion 80% of the time. And then 20% of the people you meet are going to be driven by facts 80% of the time. It's the 80-20 thing. But most people are going to be emotions first because that's just what we are mostly. And then anyone who's not, then the super factoid like kind of people, you guys send them to the debate bro world. That's where they belong. Send them to Discord, vegan Discord servers. But everybody else, this is definitely for them for sure. What's next?
What are you?
Yeah.
Are you the emotional or the more factual?
Oof, I used to think of myself as more factual and more matter of fact. Oh no, not matter of fact, because that can be emotional too. I used to think of myself as more like, this is the evidence, and that's the way it is, and da 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 da. And then I came up against people in like the whole world of this, and they'd taken that to such a level. I realized, wait a minute, no, I'm not one of those guys. I'm actually way more emotional than I thought, and I started to kind of know myself better after being exposed to people who were actually very, very fact first.
Like who? Like
Just like
give
a
me an
whole,
example.
just the world of that. I just kind of entered into this world. I found them on YouTube, some Discord servers. I saw the kind of things they were discussing and how they talk to each other. And I realized, wait a minute, no, like, I don't think they're bad, but I think that's just, wow, this is like talking to computers. Like, I thought I was like that. I'm definitely not. So now I realize I'm actually just like most people, less emotional, I suppose. I do kind of cut to the chase quite quickly and very matter of fact, but it's definitely not as computer kind of AI chatbot as I thought I was. What about you,
Oh,
man?
interesting.
Where do you
I
fit?
think I'm more factual.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I turned activist and vegan because of facts.
Mm,
And I mean, I started going to places where they hurt animals even before I was
mm,
vegan, like more than 15 years ago. But I'm always chasing facts.
mm.
This is how I try to depict the world. So I think I'm on the facts.
Interested. Yeah, it's a weird one because I don't think it's always clear cut, and
Yeah.
yeah,
The facts create emotions at the end. It's
that's
an
it.
interplay because
Yeah.
you have facts, they create emotions, and the emotion creates something. I mean, it's always,
Mm.
yeah.
I might walk back what I said though, because I mean the reason I'm vegan I'm not a vegan for love and compassion first. I'm a vegan because the fact of the matter is that's wrong. I don't want that to happen to animals. Okay, so there's the emotion. It doesn't have to be that way. So why would I do it? And that's where the fact logic comes in. I'm just like, why would I do it? I don't understand. That's for me. This is where my brain kind of gets scrambled here. Like, if you don't need to, and it's brutal and violent, why do it? So this is the emotion is there as to like, okay, I don't want that to happen, and then the logic fact kind of misunderstanding, not being able to get people is kind of over here, which is, I don't know, but I know for a fact that I don't think you are either one of these type of you speak with a lot of emotion and a lot of feeling. You're not just sitting here quoting numbers, and you do come from the individual perspective. So I'd actually argue that you are more on the emotional side, to be honest with you. But emotional with fact, I think that's a good combo. I think that's the right combo. Actually, I think too far one way or the other is usually it's not good. It's only good for people who are also that way. Like if you're all the way emotional or all the way factual, the only people you'll reach are the people who are also like that. Whereas if you're in the middle and you can kind of flip between the two, I think that's most people in the world, actually. That's most of the population in that same boat. So I think
I
you're,
agree. You,
yeah.
you you can think about it like a camera, and the more factual, the more you go up. Like so, for example, when you see things from the perspective of the animal, you're very focused on the individual. But factually speaking, sometimes it's harder for you to understand. Like if I have a camera on the ceiling of a slaughterhouse,
Mm,
I could tell you how much they're using electric probes, what frequency, and everything.
right.
Right? If I'm just in an individual, I can tell you how he feels, but it's hard for me to say statistics and things like that harder.
Mm,
So I think it's like a camera. The more it's up, the bird's eye view, the more factual, and the more you come down, the more you with the individual, and you need to play with the height of the camera.
right. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Don't put, well, it's a speciesist. Don't put all your eggs in one basket, I was going to say.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is like that though. You've got to be able to adapt to whatever's in front of you, to whoever's in front of you, most importantly as well, whatever you've got to work with and whoever you've got to work with. One size doesn't fit all when it comes to this. I completely agree. So what's next for you then? Can you tell us about your big plans, or at least vaguely? I know you can't give specifics, but what can people expect from like following your socials and yeah.
So first of all, we have other projects also besides the camera on animal, but unfortunately, these ones I cannot talk about at all.
Mm.
Um, but the camera on animal is one of our main projects.
Mm-hmm.
First, our goal is to spread it around to the animal rights movement
Yeah.
and have everyone who wants to use it and think that this could be effective for them to use it.
Mm-hmm.
And the idea is to create more of these stories like Danny and Tomer that we talked about, to have a lot of stories.
Right.
Once you have a lot of stories, some of these stories will turn into like canonical stories,
Mm.
stories that many people see.
Right.
And this can help develop this new genre of footage
Mm.
of camera on animal.
Right.
We want it to be like a genre that people already see and recognize. Oh, it's that kind of footage. Like you
Yeah.
have this footage of, I don't know, a camera on the ceiling in abattoirs. People like already recognize that,
Right.
and it can help develop the whole animal storytelling
Yeah.
field.
Yeah.
So first, I think it's really spreading it around, creating these canonical stories, which I think are lacking and are very important. So just to give you an example, like have you heard I guess about Cecil the lion,
Yeah.
right?
Sure.
So though he was not like, I don't think he was not filmed like in video when he was killed, and you don't know anything about the character of Cecil the lion, but still that's like a canonical story of one individual wild animal
Mm.
who did so much, created so much waves and so much shock around the world,
Yeah.
really created change. And I see that when there are stories about individual animals, it creates so much fuss and people relate to that.
Yeah.
So I think this is one of the most important goals.
Great.
uh, Developing the whole individual outreach,
Mm.
uh, or a better name that you will help us find, individual outreach and animal storytelling field,
Mm.
and have more activists who think it's effective for them use this method, and have people think about the subject more. And really, it's a lot about developing it and understanding what works and what doesn't work, and how do we depict the character of the animals and like the character of the animal,
Mm-hmm.
and what are the nuances that make people better understand what the animal is going through, because there's so many details in
Yeah,
this nuanced voyages of animals. What should I highlight from all these details? So it's a lot of curating and maybe crafting and understanding
sure.
in the process. um, and I think I even have some, dream that one day we can make like a movie for
Mm,
Netflix or something, from a lot of
yeah.
different individuals from around the world, like to give the word maybe is like to give a picture of
Yeah.
the animals today in the world, from this animal and this animal and this individual
Mm,
animal. And also another thing is really to make more specific use cases for this
sure.
camera and technology. But I think also, besides just use cases, to put it on more species of animals, maybe even wild animals,
Mm.
and get people to be exposed to more and more animals, individual animals in different industries and different scenarios and
Mm.
different situations.
That's I think the idea of this documentary following different animals would be really good because if it were just farmed animals, Netflix may not take that up. But if it were the animals full stop, just animals, maybe they would take that up and you'd be able to fit in the farmed animals stuff in there as well. Um
A stray cat.
yeah,
Even cats, like that we know, like we have so much on the street
right.
and we know they're suffering. It's hard to understand the small details of their lives. How,
Totally.
how does it really look like? It's so interesting. A dog, a cat, a farmed animal, a horse that is used
Right,
somewhere, a
right.
wild animal. It's a whole world.
Definitely. And yeah, that sounds like it's a big huge thing to go for Netflix doc, but totally I can see them picking up on that if the footage is, if it's captivating enough and if it can make them money. That's the thing, right? So yeah, that sounds great, man. So listen, we're gonna take some questions now. And I'm going to go through, first of all, I'm going to go through the super chats and the Streamlabs tips. So thank you to everybody who's done that. And if you want to start popping questions into the chat, look, I'll try and get to them once I've gone through the super chats and all of that. But obviously, if you want to if you've got a question, you want it to be answered 100%, use a super chat, use the Streamlabs tip. Guys, it doesn't need to be a lot. You can get your question up here for a guarantee. If you can't do that for whatever reason, if you can't afford to, pop it in the chat. I'll do my best to get to it. All right. So let's have a look, and I'll read these out for you. So right at the beginning, we had a tip from DJ Lernal. Thank you so much for the tip. Be vegan for the animals was the message. Not a question, just a great statement. So thank you so much. And then we had a super chat from Natasha. Thank you. No message. Thank you so much, though. So I'll let you know if there's a message or not, so you know what's coming, by the way, Ronan, because you can't see this. That's why.
Agriculture is the worst crime in history.
Right.
And I would add to that, and the wild animal genocide. And the beauty of it is that the slaughter industry is actually so imminent in both of them,
Mm,
because the slaughter industry is the slavery of animals, but it's also the wild animal genocide, because it's
right.
the
Just
marine hunting, which I don't know why we call fishing,
right.
and all the other stuff. So, yeah.
Yeah, because the destruction of the habitats of these animals is genociding them, right? And oftentimes they are genociding them specifically, actually targeting animals so they can clear the land and yeah, yeah. That's I've never seen it. I've never heard it put that way, to be honest with you. And just a side note now, like I don't really talk about the environmental points simply because I always find environment to be on shaky foundations when it comes to the plant-based diet, because somebody could be non-vegan and be more environmentally friendly slash sustainable slash whatever than somebody who is vegan, right? So this is why it's kind of on shaky foundations. But I do appreciate that the way you put it, that of course it is still incredibly important to discuss in the way that you're putting it, and that it needs to be something that's on a priority for vegans for that reason, because it is a genocide, like you said, in a lot of cases.
Yeah, I kind of disagree with you about being shaky. I think it's very robust. But when you think about the big three reasons why going vegan or going activist. I'm trying more to activate people than to make them go vegan.
Okay.
So it's like they say, the animals, the environment, and health, right?
Yeah. That's
So
well. That's what others say.
yeah, I don't like these divisions, because, or they say even morals, like environment is not morals, environment is not animals, you know. So I say it's for the wild animal, for the farmed animal, and for the human animal. That's my division.
Well,
Like I put it like that.
yeah. I'll tell
And
you.
I'll just,
Uh,
yeah, just I'll say one
yeah.
thing, that generally I try to look at the world as an
Excuse
alien
me.
journalist.
Right.
And I think if an alien journalist would come to Earth, what's the story? And he should write the story, the headline.
Right.
What's the story? I think the most fundamental story here, and of course he's not biased, he's not anthropocentric,
Mm.
he's not a human, this alien. So the most fundamental story is the extermination of the free wild animals
Mm.
and the slaughter of the captive,
Mm.
which are the slaughter industry, and also wild animal suffering, maybe animal suffering in the wild.
Mm-hmm.
So that's generally, I think, the most prominent things that are happening. That's the story of planet Earth.
Sure, sure. No, I appreciate it. I think the reason I said it's on shaky foundation, I'll briefly say it, and you don't need to answer. Maybe we can do another thing for this, but I find it to be on shaky foundation because there are a lot of people who live in the country around the world, and they will say probably correctly that they have a lower impact on the world environmentally than vegans who live in cities, which there are way more of. So, and they wouldn't be wrong. Now, but the issue I would still have with them is that you're still killing. And look, if killing and being violent towards animals creates a better environment saves the planet, that's not a planet I want to live on. I don't want to live on a planet where we savagely, murder each other, animals and humans. I'd rather us figure things out a different way, right? But that's where I find that the foundations to be shaky when people point that out, and it's like, you're right. And then I move on to ethics, and it's like, why did you not just start there? If ethics has always been your thing, like you think it's wrong to kill animals, why are you talking about environment? You know what I mean? So this is where I kind of, it always falls back to ethics for me, which is why I don't focus on that.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I think the thing with wild animals is that we harm wild animals in so many ways. Like if you go vegan and active, you eliminate that slavery, that horrible abattoirs completely.
Mm.
There's nothing. Now, if you go vegan, you help a lot of wild animals very significantly. But and you do all, not entirely, but you do eliminate the ocean genocide. Like the main thing in the ocean genocide, which is of course the marine hunting.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not like you're not harming wild animals. You know, the house I live in, the other things I buy, everything we do. I actually think we live in a genocide based civilization.
Right.
The harming of wild animals, it's just the way that we live. So I agree with you in the sense that it's not as clear cut as with the farmed slavery animals.
Yeah, it's not. It's not as clear cut with like the ethical arguments, basically, like on the face of it. Yeah, that's all. But yeah, we can maybe talk about that and see if there's room for like another discussion on the second channel. That would be probably, I keep this channel. So for everybody, I'll make it clear now for you as well. This channel, I'm gonna pretty much like keep this to, as the goal is to progress veganism, which means it has to be accessible for people who aren't vegan. That's kind of what this channel I want to do going forward. So if it's a discussion or a debate that doesn't achieve that, it won't happen here. Whereas, say if this is an interpersonal, inter-vegan discussion, like for example, should we do environment, it will always be on the second channel, because I think it's important to keep this. Keep our internal discussions somewhere else and have here a place where people can come and go, why should I be vegan? Well, every video serves that purpose. You know what I mean? So that's kind of, anyway, there's off topic, but that's why I'm thinking of moving this discussion that we're having now, maybe another time. Yeah. JP and Julia, thank you so much for the tip. They say a great way to help make the connection. Every individual matters, which is, we both absolutely agree. Neil, big super chat from Neil, $50. Thank you. Says thank you for all the work you thanks for the work you all. Wait, what? Thanks for the work you all do. Sorry, why couldn't I read that? Thank you, Neil. Mark, thank you, mate. Animal consumption is destroying the earth and destroying mankind spiritually. Either it ends or humanity ends. And that's a good point. Actually, someone said earlier that there is a war on compassion and a war on spirituality right now, and I agree. Actually, I've seen a lot of conservatives say the same thing. They're referring to religion though most of the time, but I do agree with them that there is a war on. I don't know. It's spirituality or compassion or kindness. There is a war on it. You're being told to not care about your neighbor. You're being told to not care about all these different things and try to individual and seclude people, and you've just got your little friend group and that's all that matters. And it feels like there's a push towards this, which is kind of tricky for us to navigate because people don't really care about each other anymore. Why should they? Why do we expect them to care about animals? So there is an assault on it for sure, and the more disconnected we are from each other and from animals and from our world, the easier we are to control, right? So, you know,
And social media exacerbates it,
oh,
because we're
100%.
all in these little bubbles and we just see people who think like we think, and then they say, oh, I unfriend him
Right,
because he doesn't think like me. Why did you unfriend him? If he doesn't think like you should, the other way
right.
around, he should be the one exposed to your content. So
Yeah,
it
man.
exacerbates everything. Yeah.
Yeah, and the conspiracy mind goes off here, and that this only benefits those who already have power, that we all are against each other. Because then, people who are fighting, they're all very, very emotional. This is what we said earlier. When you go too far down the emotional road, you can be manipulated very easily if you're too emotional. And I think most people today, at least those who have access to social media, are too emotional and are being manipulated to hate these people or support these people for no reason, right? Just hatred, just from nowhere, like, oh, they should all get this. What, I don't know. Anyway, that's a whole other discussion as well. But again, important to try to see the BS and go against it. With the anti-vegan stuff falls into that too. People are told to hate vegans. Why? Why would you hate vegans? Because they're telling us that they're trying to do this, they're trying to do that. No, we're just trying to make a better world for animals. There's nothing wrong with it. It shouldn't be hated at all. Michael, thank you for the tip, mate. No message there. Mark, thank you again for another super chat. It says, thank you, David and Ronan, for what you do. Thank you, mate. Appreciate that. Dillian, thank you for the tip, mate. Can we call it plug-in, as in plugging them into the perspective of the animal? That's interesting.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Interesting.
like plugging in, kind of like Matrix kind of thing, isn't it? And they plug into the Matrix. That's what brings to my mind. You're plugging into the animal, but it also kind of, I don't know, it kind of depersonifies the animal a little bit. You're plugging into the animal like they're a computer game character,
Yeah. Yeah.
There's something to it though, that you are. Yeah, there's something to it. Good idea, Dillian. I think it can be.
Though I think that we always think about our minds as computers, right? It's a very famous like allegory, and plugging in is for it reminds us of computers. It's not true to think about. I mean, it's always humans have thought about the mind as like the most advanced technology. When there was the steam engine, so they said that you have a few expressions which connect the mind to a steam engine.
Right.
And now it's computers. Maybe it will be AI soon.
Yeah.
So in that sense, maybe plug-in is not that bad because our minds are like, I think you have an expression, I'm plugged in or my mind is plugged in. Can you say
Yeah,
something?
something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
It could be unplug, because actually you're unplugging from the human brain and so something like that, unplug your mind, something like that. I don't know. There's something to it. Hexproof Anarchist, thank.
Sounds dangerous.
Yeah, it does sound dangerous. Yeah, you wouldn't have it on a sign, come and unplug your mind. They'd be like, what?
Okay.
Hexproof Anarchist, thank you for the super chat. No message, but thank you. DJ Lernal tipped again. Thank you, dude. Thanks, David, Ronan, and team. Thank you, mate. Dave super chatted just now. Wonderful work, Ronan. Groundbreaking ideas. You are appreciated. Nice. And I saw a question in the chat, guys. So if you've got questions, as I said, you can do it that way to get them up on this, like, for guaranteed, or at least tag me if you're going to do it in the live chat so I can see it easily, because otherwise it's hard to see. But if you tag, it should come up in the right color so I can spot it. But although my chat's just completely frozen right now.
Yeah, I hear you
Whoa, what just happened?
well, but you're frozen.
Oh, it's like, yeah, something's going wrong right now. Guys, can you still see both of us, hear both of us? Is it all good? It's just Google Chrome having a little spaz out, I think. But I think the question was, here it is. I'll put this up on the screen now. Is it not going to come up? There we go. How could our local activist groups find out how to do something similar, e.g. at vigils? Is it best to email, or will Ronen put some resources on the Sentient World website?
Send me an email. That's the best. Send me an email, and we will help. Of course, everyone wants to do this. We will help you. Send me an email to ronen@sentientworld.org. Is it in the YouTube description already?
No, but Annie's posted it in the chat, and I can add it to
Oh,
the description after.
yeah. Yeah, ronen@sentientworld.org.
Great. That's awesome. And we have another, guys, by the way, apologies, I'm responding to your super chats and Streamlabs tips, but I'm not putting them on the screen because they just kind of like bump. I can put them on the screen. I mean, there's a way of doing it. Hold up. No. Yeah, wait. Okay, they're not going on the screen today, but we're reading them out, so that's okay, right? Broccoli's in the chat if that's okay, guys, if you don't mind that I'm reading them instead of putting them on the screen. Okay. Okay, Vegan Slam, thank you for the tip, mate. This was an exceptionally exciting interview. Thank you for your devotion to this important approach, highlighting unique individuals and their unique, heart-wrenching predicaments. Brilliant use of time and tech. Bless you both. That's a really nice message, dude. Legend. Legend. Yeah, I agree. Definitely an exciting interview. I was really excited to have you on when we first met, actually, at the conference. I was at the International Animal Rights Conference. When we saw your talk, the camera on animal, it was like, what is that? That's crazy. So once we found out everything about it, I knew it would be a great topic for a live stream, because there's been like between 60 and 80 people here pretty much the whole time, because it's a very, very interesting and crazy idea that you somehow got to work, dude. I still can't get my head around how you go from like, oh, that'd be a good idea, to we've done it. Like, absolutely crazy, dude. So big props to you and your team. Amazing work. Inspirational as hell. I hope everybody here, or as many people as possible, please do email and, ask all the questions you got to ask, and see if you can figure out how to do this yourselves, get more of this kind of footage. I think it's really, really important. Ronen, is there any final thoughts you've got there, mate, that you want to share before we finish up?
The one thing that I actually found it a bit weird. It's the kind of thing that just happened along the way for this project, but I could never think about it beforehand. Was that some people are so shocked just by the concept that there was a camera on an animal.
Yeah.
They start crying, and they're like getting really emotional, and that's it. It's enough for them. Just having the camera on the animal. And for me, it's very hard to understand it. Like,
Right.
you knew animals were slaughtered. I didn't show you anything. I just spoken to you. You don't know nothing. You just know that there was a camera who followed the animal. That's enough for them. They
Yeah.
don't need anything else. So it's hard for me to understand the logic, but I find it fascinating that some people are so touched just by that fact, nothing else.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure, man. For sure. I think it's I can't support it enough, dude. I'm very excited to work with you as much as we can on whatever we can. Some things coming up, a couple of we've both got projects coming up that we can't talk about now, which is, it is what it is, but very excited for the possibilities of what we can achieve, and excited to update all of you guys on what we do achieve and what you can do to help once it's all up and running. So Ronen, thank you again, mate. I'm gonna
Thank you so much.
thank you, dude. And everybody, go and check Ronen out. Go check out Sentient. And I'm gonna boot you out for now, but please do stick around for like 5 minutes in the back. I'll come in there in a minute and have a quick chat with you. I'm just gonna close shop up here and say bye to everybody briefly. But you can say bye now if you want.
Goodbye, everybody. Keep up the good work for animals.
Awesome, man. See you shortly, dude. All right, guys, just me now. Big thank you to everybody who's contributed today, sent through all the super chats and donations and everything. Like I said, half of all of that's going to Ronen and his team so they can continue doing this amazing work, keep developing new ideas and researching, and just amazing stuff. Really inspirational. Get over there and follow and everything on all their stuff, and drop him some emails if you're interested, as I've said before. What else to mention to you guys? I had something to mention to you guys. Well, okay, I think I'll just say we'll leave it here. I will say that, remember guys, this is, this hard work that we're all doing here, preparing the interviews and, getting these awesome guests on and editing and everything and all this stuff. So if you appreciate what we've seen today, if you appreciate the work that's gone into this and you want to see more of this, do consider joining the YouTube memberships and the Patreon team. I'm mentioning this now because we're at a pinnacle point where this is really important. So if you've ever considered supporting the channel, please do consider it now. It would mean a hell of a lot and would really help us to continue doing the work that we're doing. So Annie's popped in the links there, or that's the link to the Patreon. Just gave it a little bit of a revamp. It looks nice now. And also with the Patreon members. So guys, if you're a Patreon member at $5 or up, so that's like I think it's €5, $5 or up. And if you're a YouTube member at $5 or up, you're going to get an exclusive video from a workshop that I did that you can only get if you're in that group. And it's going to be how to maximize your voice, basically, how to amplify your voice as a vegan, a workshop that I did. It's like 30 minutes long. I think it's pretty good. I think it's pretty interesting. It's not suitable for YouTube because of it being like a workshop. And so that's why I'm doing it privately. I'm doing it for Patreon only. And but full transparency, it's going to go live soon. It may or may not be live. The full workshop, the full 3 to 4 hours may or may not be posted soon by We the Free, the organization. So, but yeah, if you're in the Patreon at that level, or if you're in the YouTube members at that level, you get this segment of it before that goes live, and it's my segment. So that's what you get. It's like a what do they call it? Pre-release, or like a exclusive preview of it before We the Free posts it, which could be, I don't know, 6 months from now. I don't know what they're planning to do with it. So yeah, so join the team, guys. Many, many reasons to join the team. Thank you again, everybody, for checking us out today. Go and check out Sentient, support them, all that good stuff. I will catch you all in the next one. Keep being absolute legends.